I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in the first 3 episodes of the Ironheart series. So if you haven't watched those episodes yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disneyplus, check out all 3 of those episodes, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, join with me to break down the first 3 episodes of the Ironheart series. It's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello again.
Hello.
Hi. Hey.
Hi. Hey.
What's up?
Hi. Hello there. Anyway, Ironheart. Yeah, I like this way more than I was expecting. Not that I wasn't expecting it to be good, because we've already been introduced to Riri Williams, the character. But I really love so much about this series, and I will get into more of that in big takeaways. But I did have to mention one thing, and if it's not a reference to it, then it's a super big coincidence, and it would be hilarious if no one thought about that and just had it in the series. But at one point, it's mentioned aliens, androids, and wizards in that order, in a very specific order, mentioning things that exist in the MCU and stuff like that everyday people are aware of.
Right.
That order and those 3 it lumped together like that just reminded me of a very, very similar scene in Falcon and Winter Soldier between Sam and Bucky.
What big 3?
The big 3.
What big 3?
Androids, aliens, and wizards.
That's not a thing.
Look, if it's not a callback, then it's done unintentionally. It's the greatest coincidence ever. But I just loved that because that's one of my favorite scenes of Sam and Bucky's relationship in general, just ever. So just to have a little callback to that or something that reminded me of that, instantly I was like, oh, I love the writers of this show. Right away. You want to pull me into a show? Pull me in with just a callback to something that I've loved from the past.
Paying attention.
Yeah, I'm right there. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for the first 3 episodes?
Yeah, I thought this was a really enjoyable start to the show as well. Again, Riri's a character that we kind of grew to love in Wakanda forever, and it's just nice to see her kind of at the helm of her own show and getting to see more of her actual home life, of course, in Chicago, which I love. That aspect really reminds me a little bit of Miss Marvel, of course. Yeah. Speaking of which, I think there's a comparison there too that I want to make too, because one of the things I do love about this show is the beginning of each episode, how it starts with the Ironheart title card, and how each time we see the Ironheart name is what we call an environmental title card, where it's kind of engraved into the actual the scene itself, and it's in an inadvertent way the Ironheart name is spelled out from the set itself or from a character doing something in some certain way. So I love that. The first episode, of course, is when she crashes out on her street for the first time. Yeah. And you get to see her, of course, making out the A for Ironheart, which I thought was great. Her just laid out there was it's the perfect kind of introductory way to do one of those title cards too, because that she's actually involved in it in that form. So it's boom, there she is right there in the flesh. So I love that. The second one was a little more sneaking to me because it's just it's Ironheart on a street sign too. So it's kind of that kind of passes through. And I wasn't really paying attention for it. I guess I was looking for a more extravagant way to for them to show it to me. So that was a cool one there too. But then the third one was a really cool one because they have the little money guns too. They have at the end there, and they end up making the word Ironheart out of the money at the end. So yeah, I thought that was a really fun, creative way to play with the title card of the show. I always love title sequences and title cards when it comes to different TV shows and stuff. I always love it when they get creative with things like that. To me, the one of my favorites is always going to be the Dexter theme for some reason. Like just that whole opening sequence with the whole breakfast cutting too. It's one of my favorite opening sequences of all time. When it comes to to Marvel stuff, of course, Daredevil, I would think probably sets a high standard for that as well. Of course, obviously the X-Men animated series title sequence is a great one. So yeah, it's just like an aspect of television shows that I've always grown kind of fond of. So I like the way they do this here. Even like shows like Invincible too, how they incorporate the title card into like a mid sentence thing too. So when you can find fun, creative ways to do stuff like that, I always appreciate it. So I'm looking forward to the next three episodes to see how they incorporate it into there as well. So I think it's gonna be just a fun little thing to pay attention to as the episodes go on.
Yeah, and I mean, just going right off what you were saying, it's a perfect way, to have the title card, but not take away from the scene that just happened and the next scene that's about to happen, like type of thing.
Yeah.
Like we don't go to a long intro credits or anything after that or anything really. So it's bled right into, the opening scene and what comes right after, which is a perfect way to do it because it doesn't take anything away.
Yeah. It reminds me of James Gunn's Suicide Squad when they would use it to spell out certain like location names with dead bodies, something like that. Just go into the right place or something like that. So yeah, I always like to me that was like the closest comparisons I think I've seen or like they're very similar on that, but it's just kind of less I guess gory in this aspect. But yeah, it's a fun way to kind of play with the character and the environment itself.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna get big takeaways with just like there are so many things to love about the first three episodes. I'm going to basically just refer to them as the first chunk because I know when we got the announcement that this is how they were going to release, we had a lot of questions. We were like, why are they doing this like this? But now after watching them, they are so well connected that I don't know if I would have appreciated them as much if we got one week, and had to wait another full week. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're over the course of a couple of days. So it's like, it's really like you need these one after another. It just feels like a movie. This is really presented like a movie. Like I think, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. Like I watched all three of these, and if there hadn't been credits, after each episode, they would have went perfectly like a movie. Like we even how the events happen, like and everything, it really feels like acts of a movie. And I mean that's also to say, like I think the budget and the CGI and everything done in this also feels movie level. Not that like I have any major complaints about other MCU shows or anything like that, but like it looks real clean. Like the suit itself, everything looks
the CGI for the suit looks really good.
Yeah. Like it looks great. So the time and energy that went into this is definitely up there in the MCU quality of things. So it does give that little extra oomph of like this isn't just like a TV show where they can get away with okay graphics. These are movie level graphics. So it all kind of just flows as a movie and every aspect of it feels like a movie. I think, I appreciated Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever. I told you, even when we knew that she was getting a series and before even Wakanda Forever came out, I was like, I'm really interested in her as a character. I think it's really cool, but I didn't know a lot about her and I didn't have like a super huge attachment to her because I know there were a lot of, there's a lot to look up and to read and stuff like that. But after watching this series, I'm kind of hoping we get a season 2 and we kind of get more and we get her interacting, with more MCU related characters and stuff like that, because she's a very strong character just in general. Like I like her as a character, and in some conversations, I would have almost rather had this series first. Like I know in universe in this series, these events in the series are happening after she was in Wakanda. So obviously it's after the events of the movie and everything like that. But I kind of feel like this is her real introduction in the MCU. I mean, obviously it is her first leading role in an MCU project, but like I'm way more attached to this character now is my point than I was after seeing Wakanda Forever, just because she was, a support character in that.
Yeah. Now she's the focus.
Right. Yeah. But I just would have, it's like when we started the MCU with solo movies, Iron Man, Captain America 1, stuff like that. So you got used to those characters in advance so that when you did see one of them appear in somebody else's movie, you're like, oh, I know so much about this character already. It's awesome that they're in here. But before, like if we had gotten an introduction in those team up movies of a character, I didn't have as much of attachment. I had more attachment. I was watching the other characters I already knew more. So now, like, I don't know. I believe in the in the MCU, like what they got cooking in the background and things like that. So obviously they had a plan for this, but like I think I would have been so much more attached if this had come out before Wakanda Forever somehow. Yeah, there's so much I like about this. Like even like all of the jokes that are in it and stuff like that. I think there's a really good balance of that. And I mean, the Natalie AI is absolutely incredible. All the interactions with that, it's like having a more human Jarvis, basically. If we're comparing it to anything else, like I mean, she's basically now become her conscience, her her friend, her everything at this point.
Well, literally created from Riri's
right.
like brainwaves and stuff too. So a little bit like it has a little bit more of a personal touch to it, which makes it a little bit more crazy as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm still trying to figure out if I even understand how that whole scene really happened, but I just appreciate this AI so much because now we have this character that doesn't really have to act like a computer, but is still like that, that computer. It is still Jarvis, but it's human reactions to things and being able to bounce things like that off. And it's just, I don't know. I just really appreciate this like updated AI, this new version of an AI that we have that we can, have interacting with our main character, with Riri and stuff like that. I just think it's really cool. But I could go on and on and on and probably take as long as all 3 of these episodes did about the things I liked. But before I get too far ahead of myself, Rico, what were some of your big takeaways?
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about wishing to having this series before the events of Wakanda Forever too, just to have more of an attachment to the character. She was definitely used as more of like a plot device in that movie for sure because she was like a scientist that they were trying to attain the vibranium, do different do like the government stuff like that. And they knew about her, so they kind of used her and protected her or something like that. And also we had to juggle the introduction of Namor too, which I think was like the one real scene stealer of the entire movie too. But yeah, I think they did a good job of just like kind of balancing, just showing out that she's got the skills to, one, make her own suit, with the means that she did back. I think that would have been cool if the introductory series of her was her building that first suit, maybe, especially with, having her stepdad's car and all that. Yeah. We learned in this series that she ended up having to sell that car even after they remade it and gave it back to her, which I was like, oh, dang, even after all, they went through all that to, get the car back that she had lost in the movie. By the end of it, but by the time the series came back, she's like, well, I just sell that car to get money for my grant and all that, and how she gets her current suit and all that. So yeah, that was interesting character moves and stuff. That some of the things I love about this opening chunk of episodes too was and the series itself is the inclusion of Alden Ehrenreich as Ezekiel Stain, which I thought was like really cool. That was like kind of like a rumor that had been heavily passed around going into the series and ended up being true, of course. But I thought it was a really cool story approach to take, given Ironheart's actual, in the comics, her ties to Tony Stark just in general, like her AI kind of companion is actually like Tony Stark. So I think that, kind of, one, having Natalie as it in this it's a cool kind of diversion of that. But and I think also they do something with Natalie as an AI too. And I know Natalie's the character in the books as well, but I'm not sure if they do the same thing with her AI wise later on. But yeah, I just love that. But it also just ties this Riri character into the legacy of Iron Man even more, because we never got to see those two characters actually interact with each other on screen. So her just kind of like, taking that mantle of, an iron suit based character is kind of like, you got to have some kind of a tie right there. And what better than having the son of the original Iron Man villain, which I think is the cool kind of way just to kind of have those, again, those legacies tied together. So yeah, I really do like that a lot. I like the way they even acknowledge, even the cover up that they had back in the first Iron Man movie for Obadiah Stane's death, where like, yeah, he died, plane crashes all the time. And he goes, yeah, they say he died in a plane crash, but I know it really happened. He died fighting Iron Man. So again, just even that they're even referencing a lot of pre-snap stuff, because that feels like a lot of the more recent projects have kind of like moved on from the snap after a few projects. It's like, okay, we acknowledge them in the first few, and then now we can just kind of move on to the next thing, kind of a thing. But I feel like now they in this series they do a good job of kind of referencing in a couple of situations. We haven't even have kind of like the doomsday kind of guy talking about like Thanos was just the first step or whatever that, or that's what was going to happen. Maybe that's also a reference to what's going to happen in the future too with Doomsday as well. But so I love all that, and I also love the introductory of Anthony Ramos as Parker Robbins, aka the Hood. We got to see the character in What If season 3 a little bit. Not necessarily Parker Robbins, but a character. I think Shang-Chi's sister having the Hood on herself. So we got to see a version of the Hood and what the powers could do. And I thought they did a great job of actually displaying the powers in live action here. It's really cool how like he has to hold his breath in order to go invisible, and the way he uses that in certain situations, and even when he shoots his gun, how he can use the magic to manipulate the way the bullets like kind of curve around and stuff. Really awesome display of his powers for a character like that. And Anthony Ramos, who I know originally from going back to Hamilton. When they put that on Disneyplus, he plays John Lawrence and that, and Philip Hamilton. And also he was also the lead in the Heights movie as well, going back to Lin-Manuel Miranda again. And he also did one of the Transformers movies, I think the most recent one from. Yeah, so he was just one of those. So he's been kind of dipping his toes into these action movies, but it's really cool to see him step into like a villain role here. I think he's a really kind of cool character to kind of bounce off of Riri. I think their dynamic is really interesting, because I always like when they take the approach of like the villain comes in as kind of like the friend at first, but you can already see that there's like something that's very clearly off with them, and we clearly got a big display of that by the end of the 3rd episode too, which I'll get into the predictions, of course. But having those two characters is kind of like your adversaries for Riri in this series in situation is a cool way to kind of balance out the technological side of Riri, because obviously that's where her skills all lies, and her knowledge of science and her overall ability just to create things, but technology wise, right? And then of course you have the mystical aspects of the Hood as well, which is something she's going to have to deal with in some form as well. Like she's going to have to use her smarts to get around magic in some kind of way. I think there's even a scene at some point in one of the 3 episodes where they say like, "Oh, you say magic, but that just means I don't know," or something like that. So like that's essentially going to be your plot device there. Like she when she encounters the magic, she's going to have to find a way to kind of solve it through science in a sense. So it's going to be a fun kind of clash of styles to say. So I'm an MMA guy, so as you say, you put one martial art together, if it's another one, it's exactly what you're getting. Like which one's gonna win, which one's gonna be superior, or how they utilize it or whatever. So that's the part of the series I think that has me really intrigued. And yeah, there's just some really cool characters, and you got some really cool side characters like Xavier on Xavier's Ruby's whole family I think is really fun. As far as Xavier, who's they got like this kind of playful, kind of romantic kind of thing going on, but it still feels very platonic at the same time. I know it feels like Bruno and Kamala in a sense, but a little more deep like that. So yeah, I like those dynamics right there too, keeping the human aspect of it. So yeah, they're blending the family aspect of it into it very well too. So yeah, very strong start.
Yeah. And I mean, just going for like character building and stuff like that, they really do a good job. And I know I've said this in the past about series and even cartoon series that have done this. They make the characters seem very real, because every character has flaws, and I'm not even talking about actions and stuff like that. Riri Williams herself has panic attacks, so much so that the AI version of Natalie knows how to calm her down, because that was a common thing for her in the past. So it's one of those memories that she remembers, type of thing. And that is, it makes the characters feel very real when they have real, flaws. They have real, aspects of life that they don't always write into series, because they go, oh, that doesn't matter. Like this isn't what's important to the plot and stuff like that. But it is something that's very important when you're building out these characters to make them feel like real people. Like these people can exist. These people can be, a couple of cities away, type of thing, like in real life. And that's I think it just goes to show how well the creators of the series kind of really thought out all of these characters by giving them, different traits and really put effort into well-rounded and real feeling characters in general.
Also, Eric Andre's in the show, which is
he is. I am so sad.
I was like, what the heck is that, Eric Andre?
You know what I was really hoping was going to happen? I was really hoping that Eric Andre was going to obviously get kicked out of the group. We knew writing on the wall instantly, but I was hoping he was going to end up being on Riri's side by the end of the series. And like helping, like he was going to be part of the team on like, because obviously we're going to have the turn where it's going.
Yeah, it would have been someone that she comes back to later on, because like he would have run like revenge on the group or something like
right.
that. But then
exactly.
Jon just offed him. Apparently, all three.
I know. I feel horrible of that, but yeah, it would have been like Riri, Zeke, AI Natalie, and Eric Andre's character. That, like I can't. What was his nickname that he kept trying to?
Rampage.
Yeah,
he kept a comic book character too, but I think a very different version of the character. But it's the fact that he's trying to push this name. Like, no, I'm Rampage. Like he could have been part of the Wrecking Crew from She-Hulk. But no, I love that. It was really fun to see him. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sad that he got killed off screen, because that would have been a fun, group dynamic to have back on team Ironheart.
Absolutely.
But you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so I left this out on the takeaway. I kind of teased it, but at the end of episode 3, of course, after Parker learns about his cousin, I think Jon is his cousin. I think
I believe so.
I want him to say he's his cousin, but yeah, he learns about his death, and he's obviously very broken up of it, of course. But he's obviously talking up. He's looking up and he's talking to somebody. He's like like, is this what you want? Is this what's supposed to happen? Like, and we're like, oh, okay, that's a little bit like weird. What's going on here? And honestly, we've already gotten a few scenes where we see, the veins on his back getting all crazy and stuff like that. Obviously, the hood itself has this very kind of like sinister look to it when it's hanging on the hanger itself too, which I think is really cool. But the room gets very dark and cloudy, of course, and you're like, oh crap, something's about to happen, and we see this big shadowy figure kind of looming over Parker, which I thought was really cool. And I have to assume it's our first real outline / look of our boy Mephisto, or our long-awaited look of Mephisto after he's been theorized to show up ever since freaking WandaVision. So it's been a long time coming for a lot of people who have been expecting Mephisto to possibly show up. I really hope it's Sacha Baron Cohen, if that's like the real rumor that's been going around. If that's like the official thing, I'm all for it. But yeah, even just like the way he looked in the outline, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. You could tell he's gonna have like a pretty sick looking a cloak or a cape or whatever it's gonna be. Like, I'm just really excited to see how that's all gonna play out. One of the things that was very interesting is that when they talk about like usually Disneyplus or something like that will say like what you should watch leading into certain series and stuff like that. And obviously they put in Wakanda Forever, but they also put in Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as well. So I'm curious to see like what other little tie-in. Obviously the mystical aspects of this with Mephisto being tied in, and there's a lot of dark magic being imbued here in some form. So I think that those are obviously, it's a great kind of way to kind of tie in what's going in with that part of the world, of course. But I wonder if they're going to also call back into some stuff from those 2 movies, Doctor Strange or Multiverse of Madness, whether it has something to do with Dormammu or whatever it is. But I also wonder if, because now we know that possibly, Mephisto is in play now. We want to assume, but we can't assume until we see him in the flesh, right? Because we did the whole assuming thing with WandaVision, and also he wasn't there. But they did that really nice tease with the episode titles with the red M in one of them too, so that could be the moment where we finally see him. But there's that one part of the scene where he just shows a Jon like suffocating in that room with Parker, like just showing him like basically Jon's final moment. He's like, "Why are you showing this to me?" So it makes me wonder if somehow, the way that Natalie, because even like the way Natalie you said the way Natalie all came about with that whole experiment is still pretty mysterious in some form. So I wonder if there's some Mephisto fuckery going on there in some form or another. Because there's some moments there where Natalie kind of shorts out and gets a little bit weird, and it's just like boom, and then she kind of comes back and it's like, what happened or whatever. So yeah, I think the whole just kind of mystery surrounding her existence and stuff like that, and what her capabilities are. If it brings it forth, talking about that whole balancing the technology and the mystical side of aspects of it. Like, what if Mephisto found some way to manipulate AI in some form or another?
Yeah.
Like, that's a crazy kind of way to kind of take that approach to the story. So, yeah, I'm very excited for this next chunk of 3 episodes, and the fact that it's just gonna be like this. That's it. Like that's the 6 episodes. Like we're getting like it's a cool little mini series to get, but it's like part of me wishes we got that week to week bill so we can keep speculating like this. But now we're gonna like we can just watch it and then we can just speculate where it's gonna go from there. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I really hope that this was kind of like a tester, and they're just like, hey, these feel like they need to be grouped together. We're gonna do this. If it goes over really well, we're definitely gonna do it next season. Because, like I said, I really enjoy these characters. I really enjoy like Riri Williams as a lead, and it's like it's this whole like world that's already been built, and I know it's not anything crazy, it's Chicago, but it's this world that's already been like is already like in the process of being built out between like the mystical and what we've seen in the past, like building an Iron Man machine, like you know what I mean, like something like that. So it's taking something that we've kind of already gotten used to in the past and then kind of pulling us more into mystical, which is the thing we've been talking about. Like so far, we really haven't seen too much of the mystical aspects of things. And there's already rumors of Midnight Suns movies and stuff like that. So we are going to have more and more mystical stuff. So like, I'm just hoping that this isn't it, because I have already enjoyed this first 3 episode chunk so much. I can't imagine I'm not going to enjoy the second half of this series already. And so like I already want more. Like you know what I mean? Like I would be very happy in getting more. The other thing is, and you mentioned it with, it's saying like the suggestions being Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. What if we, get a little like throw of Doctor Strange, because he did already give a little bit of mystical powers to one of our other characters in the MCU in Spider-Man Far From Home. He had the wrist gauntlet.
Oh
He put magic onto. So like, what if magic has to compete with magic, and he like somehow helps Riri with her suit, or you know what I mean? Like, what if there is a scene with that, or something like that? Could be a little nod to Doctor Strange is coming.
I would like to just like get some kind of a nod to the Dark Dimension, because that is currently where Strange was last seen going, and like, I would like to see if maybe the hood itself has some ties to the Dark Dimension, which leads to Mephisto somehow. I would like to. I just need to explore more of the Dark Dimension. I feel like we got a little taste of it in each movie, but we haven't really gotten that one where we're like in it yet. Kind of like Quantum Mania, where we were finally in the Quantum Verse. Like even though it didn't turn out the way everybody wanted to, the Quantum Verse itself was so pretty freaking rad. So like I want some more of the Dark Dimension for sure, and I hope this is like a nice little gateway for other characters to know about it too, as just other than just Doctor Strange and Wong and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. I'm really looking forward to the second half. I mean, this is our our the second half is going to be like our end game. Like you know what I mean? Like everything is kind of going to shit in the last like 10 minutes of this.
Yeah. Part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. So basically now we have to deal with all the fallout of pretty much absolutely everything that just happened. Her, accidentally leaving Zeke's tech, his black market tech there.
Yep.
That's gonna go back to him, and so we're gonna have to see how
like that. Yeah, he's not gonna like that.
He is absolutely not gonna love that.
He's been trying to stay good all this time, and I don't think he's gonna like that.
Exactly, and I mean we've got obviously the Hood or Mephisto is kind of telling Parker that Riri was responsible for this type of thing. So now obviously that group is going to be against Riri and stuff like that. And yeah, we still don't know 100% if Natalie is the Natalie AI is fully created by Riri, or if there's other kinds of means behind that. Like there's just so much. There's so much that gets answered, and I am so excited for it. Right now. I almost wish everything was just here right now. Like we just watch everything right in a row. I would watch
it. It would be nice if they just dropped one all at once like that.
Just give us a movie. Like just make it a movie at that point. Like I feel like I said already, and I'm not trying to drive this point into it, but it just with everything, every aspect of this felt movie quality. So I think it would play well as a one continuous thing. Give us that option. Give us that option after the second half, the second like 3-episode chunk drops, where we can just skip the credits and just watch all 6 episodes in a row, and then just have credits at the end.
Right.
Well, I mean, look, the title cards are built into the scenes, so there's no disruption there. Everything's fine. You kind of just you see the flow, and you know when the next episode would have been starting. Just don't put the credits at the end. Just let it go all the way through. I want that option.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I like it. But in the meantime, as we say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the first 3 episodes? And, what did you like the most going into this, not really knowing what the series was going to be about? And what are you hoping to see in the second half, the second 3 episodes? And are you excited to hopefully get more after this? Like, how is this going to connect to the bigger picture of the MCU moving forward? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.